I don't think this Indian team can win a match wherever we go, whichever tournament we play in, home or away, it doesn't really matter. I don't think we can do without this man. Now, of course, he is a legend in almost everyone's eye already, especially in white ball cricket. But I think it's because the red ball format doesn't get a lot of attention that people often forget that he is one of the greatest in red ball cricket for India and the world. Since his debut, he's been the ninth highest wicket taker in Test cricket. He's the seventh highest wicket taker in terms of fast bowlers. He, of course, is the highest wicket taker in terms of fast bowlers for the Indian team. In fact, he's the third highest wicket taker in India since 2018. He's above the likes of Akshar Patel, Kuldeep Yadav. In fact, in the top 10, he has the best average of 17.19. And he's the highest wicket taker for India away from home since his Test debut with 27 matches with 126 wickets with an average of 21.10. I don't think this man needed an introduction, but regardless, you saw all these wickets in front of you. Of course, I'm talking about Jasprit Bumrah. Now, as a fast bowler, a lot of people have this preconceived notion that as the test match progresses, the effectiveness of that fast bowler, albeit in India or abroad, gets worse and worse because the pitches tend to get more batter friendly or spinner friendly. Regardless, it gets away from the fast bowlers. Now, this is not true with Jasprit Bumrah. If you break his test match record down into 4 innings, you will see that his first innings average is the worst, and his second, third, and fourth averages are quite similar. This is a fast bowler that essentially gets better after your first innings. In fact, he's in the top 10 list of wicket takers when it comes to second, third, and fourth innings list since 2018 as a fast bowler. Now, all these are numbers right in front of you. All of these are stats to think about and to imagine the kind of fast bowler Jasprit Bumrah is. Now, we all know he's different, not only because of his numbers, but because of his action. And a lot has been said about his action over the years, but we will break it down and talk about what makes his action so different but also impossible to play at times. Now, if you have made it this far and if you're enjoying this video, like and subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe because it'll always help us. Let's get into his action. Now, we have seen Jasprit Bumrah change his action over the years from 2014-15 when he played the Vijay Hazare until he got that injury that almost took him out for a year from international cricket. And even after he came back, we saw the smallest of change, but this change will allow him, hopefully allow him, to prolong his international career. Now, this is the 2014 Vijay Hazare final, Delhi versus Gujarat. You can see Jasprit Bumrah run into bowl, and the entire time when he runs in, he's almost skipping the famous skip that he has. He's doing that throughout his run-up. Now, a run-up is an essential part of a fast bowler because a run-up allows you to build up momentum that takes you to the bowling stride. Now, the bowling stride is when the bowler loads up to bowl. So, when you see the long stretch in a fast bowler, when he's almost going to release the ball, all of that is the bowling stride. Now, until then, in 2014-15 and a long time in his international career, he would skip into bowl more than running into bowl. And even before his stress fracture, now a lot of people might remember this famous delivery to Keaton Jennings, which we will get into. Even before he got that injury, he did change his run up quite a bit. There was more of a running than skipping. He did run quite a bit. But the problem with this was it was a very short run. So he would skip for 2-3 steps and have a very short run, and then he would get into the stride. And then he got a stress fracture, which then meant that he had to make changes because a lot of momentum, a lot of build-up was in this stride. All of his pace. This is a man who would run in after 8-9 steps and bowl 140 plus. And this was because of his stride, because of the amount of pressure he would put on his shoulders, on his back, on his hands, and then release the ball with all that pressure to bowl 140 plus. But we need someone like a Jasprit Bumrah to sustain more years in the international circuit without getting injured. So what did they do? They basically made his run-up a little longer. Ironically, Siraj, in the last couple of test matches, he has shortened his run-up. We don't exactly know the reason why, but this is what he has done. But Jasprit Bumrah, on the other hand, after his injury, he elongated his run-up. He made his run-up a little more longer so that there's a build-up of momentum rather than just a sudden burst of energy going through his back and shoulder. And when he came back to play T20 cricket against Ireland, this is what we saw. Now, this was all about his run-up and the changes he made in his run-up, but that's not the meat of it, right? The fact that he has a very unique bowling action is what makes him so lethal. Now, Jasprit Bumrah, as we all know, has a hyper extended arm. Now, what does that even mean? Now, when you look at Dale Steyn, you will see that his arm is straight, how it's supposed to be, how it is normally on average. And if you compare this to every other fast bowler, you will see that arm very straight. But when you look at someone like a Jasprit Bumrah, you will see that his elbow is a little bent behind. It's a little behind 180 degrees. Now that's the best way to explain it. Dale Steyn's arm is 180 degrees, whereas Jasprit Bumrah's is a little more than 180 degrees. And that is what hyperextended arm means. And this is where he generates so much pace from. His elbows and his wrist. It's almost like a whip action when he releases. So every time you see Jasprit Bumrah release the ball, you will notice that there's almost a whip because of the hyper-extended arm and because of his wrist position, which almost acts like a whip. The pace of the ball is a lot higher than what the batsman perceives it to be. Now, the pace is not just because of that hyper-extension, right? It's because of the arm and it's because of the brace leg. That is, the knee doesn't bend on landing. Because of all of this and his shoulders and his back, the pressure he puts on all of this generates the kind of pace that you see him bowl. Now, all of this is about pace and how the batter might perceive Bumrah to be slower than he seems, and this is also because of his release point. An average coaching manual would tell you as a fast bowler to release the ball right above your head, which is perpendicular to your head. So you see Dale Steyn here releasing the ball right above his head, but when you look at someone like a Jasprit Bumrah, he releases the ball in front of his head, not above, not perpendicular like a Dale Steyn or a Pat Cummins, but in front of his head. It's almost a 1.5 feet difference in terms of release points between an average fast bowler and Jasprit Bumrah. Bumrah releases the ball a lot later than an average bowler would to bowl the same length and line, which means the distance between Bumrah and the batter for the ball to travel is a lot lesser as compared to a normal fast bowler, which also means if Pat Cummins was bowling at 100 kilometers per hour, his release point is at 100 kilometers per hour. We know by the time the ball pitches and reaches the batter, the ball does slow down. So by the time the ball reaches the batter, let's just say Pat Cummins' ball is now slowed down to 95 kilometers per hour. For Bumrah, it would be a little more than that. If Bumrah releases the ball at 100 kilometers per hour, by the time it reaches the batter, it'll still be at 97, 98. And this is because Bumrah is able to release the ball a lot later than an average fast bowler to bowl the same line and length. And this is why. It's because of the release point. It's because of the whip action that he has. It's because of the hyperextension, the brace front knee. All of these combinations allow Bumrah to bowl the ball a lot later. You will always see Jasprit Bumrah with an upright seam unless he's trying to swing it outer. And he has a fantastic ability to use his wrist to make sure the seam is erect. Now this causes two effects. Let's take a little deep dive into science and try understanding this in the most simple way. This is an effect called the Magnus effect. So we know that when the fast bowler releases the ball, they release it in such a way that there is backspin to the ball. Now because the ball is going forward and the air is going against the ball, the top half of the ball is spinning with the ball, whereas the bottom half of the ball is spinning against the ball. Now what this does is this enables lift, which is why the ball stays in the air a little more than it actually would without rotation. Now this allows the ball to swing, seam, reverse swing and all of that, but swing and seam is something a fast bowler would be able to do because of this. And this is why Jasprit Bumrah is so lethal. Bumrah is able to put so much backspin into the ball that there's reverse Magnus effect taking place, which instead of lifting the ball, pushes the ball down, which is why when you see Bumrah bowling a Yorker or even a full-length delivery at times, the batter is deceived because the ball dips to the batter. The ball dips in front of him, which you don't traditionally see with a fast bowler. That is because of the amount of backspin he's able to put behind the ball, that there's reverse Magnus effect taking place and he's able to make the ball dip at such high speed. Now if you want to know more about it and read more about it, we'll put the links in the description below, so please go check that out. This is the most simplest way I could possibly explain it. Now the fact that this fast bowler can dip a cricket ball at 145 clicks, that this fast bowler has an in-swinger which you would normally assume so. But he worked so hard and he developed an outswinger. The first time he put that out in the international arena is the famous Keaton Jennings delivery where he bowled an in-swinger to a left-hander and an outswinger to a right-hander. And Keaton Jennings had no idea how to play that ball. Not only that, he has multiple slower deliveries. He has the Yorker that he nails more often than not. He has the short ball that whips through and goes to the batter that almost takes the batter by surprise because of the amount of pace behind that ball. And not only this, the man's smart. He is street smart. He knows what his plans are. He does homework and executes the kind of ball that he needs to when he needs to. He is someone who reads the pitch so well. We often talk about Ravichandran Ashwin and how smart he is and how capable he is when it comes to understanding pitches, understanding batters, doing homework, understanding his own variations. And this is what Jasprit Bumrah is too. I don't think he's talked about enough in terms of smartness because he's a fast bowler and there's this stereotype against fast bowlers. But he as a bowler seems very, very smart because he's one of those bowlers across the world who reads pitches so very well. And this was very, very evident in the 2023 World Cup, which we unfortunately went on to lose. But there was so much evidence behind Bumrah being able to read pitches well because he would be the first one to make changes that would in the end be very, very effective. Now, because of all this, he's the 6th highest wicket taker in Sena countries in the history of Indian cricket. He's the only one in the top 10 of this list to have an average below 25 and a strike rate below 50. He also has the best average for an Indian who has taken 100 plus test wickets. Now, of course, we are going to the Border Gavaskar Trophy and of course, we will need Bumrah. But where does Bumrah lie in the Border Gavaskar Trophy? Jasprit Bumrah for an Indian is the 5th highest wicket taker in Australia against Australia with an average of 21.25 and a strike rate of 51.5. He's just below Bishan Singh Bedi. I won't be surprised if he plays 3 or 4 or even all 5 test matches and he overtakes Ravichandran Ashwin in this list eventually. Jasprit Bumrah as a test bowler has come a long way. He was effective even in South Africa when he made his debut. And now we're going to Australia. He has been effective throughout his international career. Jasprit Bumrah is the spearhead that we need in this Border Gavaskar Trophy. Jasprit Bumrah is the vice captain the Indian team was looking for in terms of fast bowlers, in terms of smartness, in terms of being able to play the game. And Jasprit Bumrah is the kind of player that the Indian team will need for a very long time. If you've liked this video, like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. This has been our video on Jasprit Bumrah, the test player, and what makes him so different. All of our links are in the description below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, go down to our description, do that too. We also have a blog and we write a lot of articles on cricket, so go give that a read. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.